Blog Talk Radio.
Franchise interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews. Welcome to Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship. Listen to interviews with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys. And now, welcome your host, Marty McDermott, and Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs of all one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and we have a great show. Well, we're meeting with Chad Harrison, the franchise development representative at Authority Brands, and Michael Hutchins, franchise development manager at Authority Brands. And Authority Brands is headquartered in Columbia, Maryland, and is the parent company of several leading home service companies. Combined, these brands have over 1,900 locations throughout the United States and the world. And we're going to talk to Chad and Michael about that in just a moment on Franchise Interviews. So stick around because we have a great show.
Franchise Teacher.
Would you like to know how to franchise your concept or grow your franchise business?
Meet the experts at Franchise Teacher.
The goal of Franchise Teacher is to teach, coach, consult, and advise. The team of experts at Franchise Teacher will evaluate your business model and present you with a winning business strategy.
Franchise Teacher will help you decide whether or not your concept works and if it's franchisable. Franchise Teacher is proud to have over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors.
Franchise Teacher are developers of over a dozen franchise systems, which include brick and mortar as well as home-based concepts of nearly 3,000 combined franchise locations.
Whether you need to add more units or get more customers, Franchise Teacher can help. We will teach.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn our proven system.
Coach.
Franchise Teacher will help you provide a game plan to succeed.
Consult.
Franchise Teacher will make sure you stay on track.
And advise.
Franchise Teacher will help you learn from our over 30 years of experience in franchising as both franchisees and franchisors. Take advantage of our free, no-obligation phone consultation. Simply go to franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032. That's
franchiseteacher.com or call us at 561-385-3032.
Hi, this is Connie McDermott, Administrative Assistant for Franchise Interviews, LLC, and you're listening to Franchise Interviews.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to a very special edition of Franchise Interviews, where for over 16 years now, we've been asking the entrepreneurs of all one. I'm your host, Marty McDermott. I'm the president of Franchise Interviews, and as we were saying earlier, we have a great show today. We're meeting with Chad Harrison, franchise development representative at Authority Brands, and Michael Hutchins, franchise development manager. And Authority Brands is headquartered in Columbia, Maryland, and is the parent company of several leading home service companies, and combined, these brands have over 1,900 locations throughout the United States and the world. Hi, Chad. Hi, Michael. How are you guys? Welcome to the show.
Good morning. How are you today?
Good. I'm doing well. It's great to have both you gentlemen on the show. So I was really excited when I've had this opportunity to interview both you gentlemen. You wouldn't know, we've been hosting this show now 16 years, and over that time, I've had a lot of the brands on the show. I've had ASP, Monster Tree Service, Screenmobile, Mosquito Squad. It was a whole bunch of Junkluggers. So I'm certainly familiar, with a lot of the brands. Chad, maybe, I'll start with you. How did you get involved in franchising, and what led you to Authority Brands?
I was actually in restaurant management and sales side for some time, maybe about 15 years. Wow. And prior to that, after COVID, everyone began to kind of, you began to rethink the whole situation as far as where you're working and so forth. Right. Especially in the restaurant business. And so started looking around. I came across Authority Brands and franchising, and I had no idea how big the industry is. From my perspective, it was, some of the standard franchises you see, going down the road every so often, some of the fast foods and so forth. But it is huge. And so I began to get into with the Authority Brands as this representative position with Michael, and began to learn under him and his mentorship. And I love the industry. I love the business. I've always had an interest in connecting with other individuals, whether on the sales side, whether it's on franchising or in a restaurant. But that's how it started for me, yeah.
That's great, Chad. And how about yourself, Michael? I know you have a background in franchising as well, don't you?
Sure. I've been franchising for, over 20 years. Wow. I've been in several different industries, but I love franchising. Personally, I find it very rewarding, playing a small part in helping people, achieve both their personal and financial goals. And I also, enjoy being part of the team, seeing people like Chad develop within the industry. I mean, it's a lot of fun.
I think that's great, Michael. It's interesting because I was mentioning to both you gentlemen earlier, I've had a lot of the brands on the show, and I think at the time, because the show's been running so long now, at the time, many of the brands that I interviewed, I don't think they were under the umbrella of Authority Brands. Maybe, either one of you gentlemen can talk about, what are some of the advantages of having this whole portfolio or family of brands when we're talking about Authority?
Sure. Chad, do you want to take this, or would you like me to answer?
Sure. No, absolutely. I mean, you have the power of Authority Brands. You have, the opportunity for all of our candidates, whichever brand they have the initial interest in, the opportunity to say, maybe this brand isn't for me. I'd like to pivot, and I still love the home services, but maybe American Swimming Pool Company is more my style and something that fits more into my trade. So we're very fortunate in that sense. And also, specifically for 1 hour heating and air, behind the power of AB Authority Brands, we put in about $700,000 into recruitment last year. So you have, the ability for the capital and for the, for the company to put in that assistance where you were needed to support and back up the brands. Michael? Right.
Go ahead, Michael.
No, and, those are good points. And really, I mean, we want to own the home, both inside and out. I have many franchisees that go on to add an additional trade brand, another one of, our sister brands. We've already got the customer established. Now we're just going to provide additional services to that, homeowner. Chad kind of touched on, the purchasing power. But, I mean, we're almost $2 billion strong. It translates into greater discounts on the front end, rebates on the back end for all of our owners, driving even greater profitability. If there's another one of our brands in a market and then we're opening up a new 1 hour there, we have those customers already. It helps our owners get off to a quicker start. It's just more effective, marketing. So there's numerous advantages to being part of Authority Brands. We just hosted a cocktail party in Dallas. So we invited owners in the Dallas area from all of our brands to come so that they could meet with one another, talk about, synergy, sharing customers, co-op marketing. Again, another benefit.
And, when I'm thinking of the history, Michael, I mean, so Authority Brands didn't start off as a family of brands. It really started off with one single franchise, right? And then I guess over time, I think, looks like today you're up to, is it 15, if I remember correctly?
I'm losing track. We're adding them quick, but you're right. We're still a young company. Maybe 6 years ago, it was just the Cleaning Authority. They added on a few more and kind of stayed there. Then, last year we added maybe 4. This year we've added several already, and we're still looking for more. We're well funded, with our financial partners. I mean, they're constantly looking, not just for the next opportunity, but I mean, does this brand fit in to our growth strategy? Also, current owners, culturally, is it going to be a good fit, and things like that. But, I know that they're in discussions with several other, home service companies right now as well.
That's terrific. And I imagine, I guess if you're at a franchise show, Chad and Michael, it's nice. You only have to have one booth, right, as opposed to 15 booths, So, I mean, that's kind of nice, too. But if someone were to come up to your booth and they say, "Oh, Authority Brands, what do you guys do?" or how do you describe yourself? How do you typically describe Authority Brands to, let's say, a prospective franchisee at a franchise show?
Well, I mean, we have all of our, we've got obviously Authority Brands, their, banners. All of our brands, though, are represented. We have graphics. I mean, we don't stay in one booth. It's a big, it's a big company. We have, representatives from all of our brands there. We talk about the power of Authority Brands with all of our prospective franchisees because it's a tremendous benefit. But, all of the brands are broken out, at all of these events.
That's great. How does technology play a role when we're talking about Authority Brands? And the question could be for Chad or Michael. I mean, is the technology, is it in sync with all the other brands, or is it separate? Or maybe you could talk a little bit about how you use technology today. Sure.
Well, we definitely, everyone's using technology. The trade brands, we share the same software system, the platform. The other, other brands have their own. We're using, Pulse-M technologies for texting and different, all of the brands. So we have 3 brands that share one software, platform. There's a lot of common denominators between the trades. The others, they all have their own unique software system that, is designed for their particular industry.
Right. And it's nice being part of all of the, having all of these different family of brands. When I think of, you mentioned industry, Michael, I guess it's safe to say you're part of many big industries, aren't you? I guess we can, if we to just categorize it under one, it would be like the service industry business. But it's safe to say it's a pretty big market, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. We classify ourselves under, essential services. Even, through the pandemic, our owners are up 30+% year over year, for several years in a row. Even prior to that, though, same store growth, they were up 25%. This industry has a lot of momentum, a lot of traction. It's become particularly attractive to PE groups. We had one owner sell out last summer for $108 million, still in his 30s. So this, it's extremely scalable, but not everyone wants to, take over the world. I have, a handful of owners that stay in one territory. Sure. They like managing a small staff, whatever the reasons, may be.
Chad, I'll start with you on this one. What's been, and then I'll go to Michael, the same question, what's been one of the most interesting things that's happened to you since being part of Authority Brands? And if you're considering, you probably have hundreds of stories, but does anything stand out kind of over the years that you kind of say, wow?
Yeah, I have to say definitely the transition of the conversation I'm having with our candidates and clients as we begin this discussion with them. In many instances, outside environment, whatever's going on outside around us, there seems to be more of a desire towards, and a lot of them are putting it this way, as diversifying their portfolio. Putting in an essential, as Michael said, an essential service in with their restaurants, their gas stations, and so forth. And so I see that diversification as well as just leaning in and maybe pivoting more towards this industry. So, on the essential side.
That's interesting. How about Michael? How about yourself? What stands out over the years with Authority Brands, Michael? If you can narrow it down to one thing.
Our people, I'll tell you, we are growing rapidly and, bringing on new brands. I think one of the things that I've enjoyed most about Authority Brands is, seeing, my team members go on, we've had multiple promotions, people taking on bigger roles, more responsibilities. And just seeing, people come in, learn about the franchising industry and realize that it's the vehicle for them and that they've, found a happy home and a new career. I found that actually to probably be one of the most rewarding parts of my time with Authority Brands.
Speaking of franchising, what types of, and I imagine it may vary a little. Again, you can answer better than I could, but what types of characteristics do you look for, Chad and Michael? I mean, when you're meeting with a prospective franchisee that you know that this person is probably a good match, or maybe even not so good of a match for Authority Brands, what do you look for? What's important to you?
Obviously, the financial capabilities,
right,
of course. We need to understand that. But the majority of the individuals that I work with are not from this industry. And I support both owner-operator as well as semi-absentee. They're entrepreneurs. They like that it's an essential service. They like the high return on investment, the relatively short ramp-up period.
Right.
So a background in this industry is not a key attribute for success. What I hone in on right away is making sure that, they understand key attributes include the ability and desire to follow the system. I mean, it's already been successfully replicated hundreds of times across the country. And in our business, this is about building a team, creating a culture, having your technicians aligned towards the same common goal. Because in order to grow, you need to add vehicles, add staff, service more customers, each and every day. So whether it's themselves, their manager, it's key to understanding that they realize how to build a team and create that culture. That's key.
How about you, Chad? What's important to you when meeting with a prospective franchisee? What do you look for?
Yeah, like I said, back to what Michael had said too is again, the background. We've worked with so many different various professionals, whether IT specialists, as Michael said, attorneys, investors, entrepreneurs, and ultimately it's, as he said, it's just following that system that's in place, that 1 hour heating and air system that they developed, the operations, marketing, everything that it consists of, and following it just like a GPS, and that's the route to success.
Yeah, I like that analogy, Chad. It's interesting. I've never heard the analogy to a GPS. It's very clever. It was funny. I was interviewing, and I can't remember what, it was one of the tax franchises, but I was interviewing one of their most successful franchisees, and I said to him, I said, well, how did you become the most successful franchisee out of? And I think they had about 2,000 different franchisees, and he said, all I did was I did what they told me to do, and it seems so simple, doesn't it? But it's so true, isn't it? Is just, I guess, finding that person, like you and Michael were saying, to just follow the system, follow the GPS, and you'll get there, won't you?
It could be a discipline in itself that you develop, right? In that sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's great. How's the training? Is the training similar for the brands? Are they different? Like, how does it work, Chad and Michael? I mean, do they come to corporate for training? Maybe you could talk a little bit about that. I imagine it's changed a little bit since COVID.
Sure. Well, training is ongoing. It never ends.
Okay.
But it starts with, initial owner's training. After someone signs their agreement with us, they'll be assigned roughly 5-6 hours of prep work, modules, 15, 20 minutes each. They'll complete at their own pace. Then they will fly to Phoenix for 5 days of initial owners training. We call boot camp. They'll have a 1 hour, once a week call set up for their 120 days, of onboarding, which is all inclusive, and I call it, Sure Start. Then they will have roughly 3.5 days of Zoom, training, initial training on the software system, and then there'll be follow-up training done at the location, when it's installed and the team is recruited and trained up, etc. But then, they're assigned their coaches right off, during that onboarding. We're going to work to create a business plan, create for them, because like I said, the majority of our owners are not from this industry, so we create a 5-year budget pro forma for them, and then they're working with that team on an ongoing basis, and marketing comes out on site, technical training comes out on site. We provide ongoing support in really all 4 buckets, operational buckets of running their business. So management, anything to do with their staff, it's ongoing. Marketing, anything to do with, finding new and retaining existing customers. Finance, knowing their numbers, it's ongoing, all the time.
Right. No, I think that's important. And when I'm thinking about, because the service business is different than selling, Chad, you had experience in the restaurant industry. So it is different. And I'm trying to think of, there's probably some similarities as far as like a typical day with all the brands. And I'm sure there's probably some differences as well. But what are some of the similarities as far as like what a typical day is like to be under or to be an Authority brand franchisee, no matter what brand it is?
It depends if they're owner-operator or semi-absentee. So owner-operator, they are going to be the face of the business, the dispatcher. Right. They're going to answer the phone, see where their team is in the field via GPS, see where the customer resides, etc. Mm-hmm. They'll be the conduit to our corporate staff.
Right.
Working with marketing, training, etc., all those things, receiving deliveries, hosting the weekly team meetings with their team. Mm-hmm. Those are really the primary functions. Then if they're semi-absentee, and they're there Monday through Friday business hours, so it's a regular, full-time schedule. Mm-hmm. If you're semi-absentee, your role is really going to be to reviewing daily management reports, approving budgets. The manager is going to take care of everything else I talked about. Our semi-absentee owners are typically putting in about 10 hours a week managing their managers.
And when I have two gentlemen like yourself on the show, because both of you, combined, you have so much experience in franchising. Chad, I'll start with you on this question. The majority of our listeners, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. Most of them are new to franchising. They don't have any experience in franchising whatsoever. They're showing an interest in franchising. They think of it as a good model. But what advice would you give to our listeners then in their quest to buy a franchise, considering they're doing this for the first time?
Definitely take the time to understand all the potential, whether it be in the service industry or somewhere else in franchising, and giving themselves enough time, to plan it out. It's not a rush. To thoroughly go through each brand, understand, what are the how do these other brands, royalties, how do they mirror training, what sets other brands apart from others, but ultimately to take their time to walk through each of these brands and industries, to understand them thoroughly, to be able to make that educated decision.
Yeah, I think that's a great response. How would you add to that, Michael? What advice would you give to our listeners in their quest to buy a franchise? Because there's so much out there today.
No, make sure you go through the process. You have adequate time for each step. Reviewing the FDD. I would emphasize that anyone, considering, joining any franchise system, absolutely make sure you talk with existing owners. Get their perspective on a day in a life. It's important. To understand that. So that's a key thing that I think, everyone should do is to make sure that they speak with, several owners. And just get their perspectives.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. So if both of you gentlemen, if you could look into a crystal ball and, you whether that crystal ball is 1 year, 3 years, 5 years, Michael, you kind of like hinted that, Authority Brands is looking for other brands under the umbrella. Where do you see Authority Brands 3 years, 5 years down the road?
Probably double. 5 years. 1 year. 1 year. I've got my goal. We're already, we should be at 100% a goal in the next, 45 days. So this year, we're having another record year. Owners are happy. Existing owners are expanding. New people are joining our family. It's exciting times. I think Authority Brands in 5 years, our goal is to be, twice the size.
What's the best way, Chad or Michael, for our listeners to get more information on Authority Brands? Is there like one-stop shop, a place they can go to get more information?
Sure. Chad, why don't you share our webpage with the audience?
Sure. So easiest way to see all the brands, you would have authoritybrands.com, authoritybrands.com, and under there you'll see all of our brands, our services that we offer.
That's terrific. Well, I can't tell you how happy I am to finally get a chance to talk to you, Chad and Michael, about Authority Brands, because, again, I've been so familiar with many of the brands that are under that umbrella, and I think this is really exciting, and I think you have a wonderful opportunity at Authority Brands. So it's great to talk to you today.
Yeah, thank you very much. We enjoyed it as well. Thank you for the opportunity.
This has been my
absolutely.
pleasure.
Thank you.
You're welcome, Chad and Michael, and have a great day. And we'll be right back with more franchise interviews. Coming up in our next segment, we'll be playing a clip from our Great Quotes in Franchising podcast right here on Franchise Interviews.
Franchisers, are you looking to reach aspiring entrepreneurs looking to buy a franchise? Are you looking to reach a highly educated audience on franchising? Franchise Interviews, an up-close, behind-the-scenes look at franchising and entrepreneurship through our website, franchiseinterviews.com, where you can hear and read interviews as well as get tips from some of the most successful sources in franchising. Our weekly franchise radio show where each week you get to hear a new interview with franchisers, franchisees, franchise authors, franchise experts, and attorneys, and our podcast, Great Quotes in Franchising. For more information, go to franchiseinterviews.com or call us at 610-905-2919. That's 610-905-2919.
Hi, everyone. This is Marty McDermott from Franchise Interviews, and welcome to another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising, where each podcast you get to hear a great quote in franchising. You know, we've been hosting franchise interviews many years now, and you can actually hear the show in a number of different places today. You can go to, of course, franchiseinterviews.com, where we have our interviews arranged alphabetically. We also have interviews arranged by category. So if you have a particular industry that you're interested in, you can go to the category of your choice and check out all the different interviews that we've done over the years. Our show's been syndicated in a number of different places. Of course, you can hear our show on blogtalkradio.com. We've been working with Blog Talk Radio for many years now, and you can hear the live shows there, and then you can download them as an MP3. You can hear our shows on Stitcher.com. You can hear our interviews on, I think it's pronounced, I always want to call it Blueberry.com, but it's BLUBRRY.com, which is another podcast service. You can now hear our shows on iTunes.com, and of course, you can hear our shows 24 hours a day, 7 days a week if you're a diehard fan to our show on Live365.com. And we have over the years over 420 shows. So if you were to listen to Live365.com for 2 weeks, there's a chance that you may not even hear the same show twice. So that's how many shows we've recorded over the years. But today's Great Quote in Franchising podcast comes from Darren Guccione, and Darren is the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc. And what's interesting about this podcast, we had Darren on the show as the founder and the creator of Keeper, which is the world's most downloaded password manager and digital vault. And Darren is a real entrepreneur. And one of the questions that we ask on the show is, what advice would you give to an aspiring entrepreneur or franchipreneur or someone looking to buy a franchise? And that question is usually directed to someone who has been directly involved in franchising over the years. But again, Darren is a real entrepreneur. His background is in accounting and business, and I thought his response was just as great as anything that we've heard on the show. So here we go with Darren Guccione, the CEO and co-founder of Keeper Security, Inc.
Amazing. It's amazing technology. In studying your background, Darren, I mean, I was mentioning earlier, I mean, the majority of our listeners, again, we call them aspiring franchipreneurs. You know, they want to go into their own business, and they're kind of like heading towards the franchise alternative. What advice would you give to them? Because you're certainly, in studying you, certainly classified as an entrepreneur. So what advice would you give to them?
Well, my background is engineering technology. I'm also a CPA, and
right.
I've always had an admiration for franchises. One of the things that I love about franchises, among other things, is that you can analyze the different franchise models that are out there, the brands, the type of businesses, and you can quickly identify which ones are successful. And typically, they give you a roadmap of what you need to do to execute. When you start a business without
right.
a franchise roadmap, you typically don't necessarily know where you're necessarily going to go or wind up. And so you get a greater sense of security and guidance when you can pick a franchise model that, A, fits within, your goals in life, your interests in life, and B, provides a really sound, infrastructure for you to build a business with a great support system around you. Most businesses that are one-off businesses don't have that. So there's a greater sense of, uncertainty out there when a business owner or an entrepreneur, as you've outlined it, decides to, pursue a franchise versus doing something completely fresh and new. I think the risk profile of doing the latter is much greater. So that's my response to that.
No, it's fantastic advice. So any final thoughts, Darren?
Fantastic interview with Darren Guccione. So I want to thank everyone for making our show such a success, and this podcast has really just taken off over the years, and we got some really great quotes in franchising coming up. So thanks everyone for listening, and we'll see you again soon with another edition of Great Quotes in Franchising from Franchise Interviews. Take care, everyone.
Franchise Interviews. From Easton, Pennsylvania to Sydney, Australia, you're listening to Franchise Interviews. Franchise Interviews.